Djembe Tribe is a bunch of friends coming together. We meet up once a week, every Saturday. We bring our drums and we play some music together. And it's mostly based off of West African percussion.
I think I see it as an open space where you can bring your drum, your instrument. You can come as you are, you can sing or clap your hands. And a place where we practice together and share rhythms and challenging each other to learn more and pushing each other, I think, in the direction of playing more drums and exploring more rhythms and see what we can do with it together.
Djembe Tribe for me is like a gathering, I think. The word djembe is a really beautiful word. Djembe, the two components of the word means to gather in peace. So the very essence of the instrument that we're playing is about bringing people together in peace. And that, I think, speaks to the spirit of Djembe Tribe, which is a gathering of people, a collection of people.
So djembe, it's a drum, you sit with it in between your legs. It's about the size of a log because it comes from a log. It's a hollowed out log with goat skin strapped on top. Is basically what it is.
So it's a piece of wood and a skin, basically. Maybe we can show here.
Yeah, maybe. Here's one we prepared earlier. No. But it's like one piece of wood and that has been carved to have this shape and then hollowed out all the way through. It's sort of like quite heavy. This is like 5 kilos.
Yeah.
And it's a drum, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a drum, in other words.
Yeah.
It's a piece of wood with skin on it. There's one metal hoop here. And there's another metal hoop that's folded, where the skin is folded over it here. And these two are pressing down on one another. And the ropes are then tied to the top metal hoop and then wrap around the bottom metal hoop and tie down to another metal hoop that sits at the base of the shell. The more pressure that's pulled down on those two top metal hoops, basically, it's kind of basic, the tighter the skin gets. And the tighter the skin gets, the higher the sound you get.
I'll say what my role has been and what it is now. My role has been to organize the events on Saturdays and also to lead some of the classes. It's broken up in 2 parts, the Saturday events, so there's a class and then there's a free jam. So I've been teaching some of these classes with the best of my abilities. Yeah, and it's just been to kind of keep that going and showing up, bringing the drums and keeping it going. Yeah.
In Djembe Tribe, my role is facilitator, I guess. Like when it comes to a drum group, the means of facilitation that I feel like I do is by holding a rhythm, a very steady, simple rhythm that then allows the conversation to take place. Holding the space, I guess you could say, which is a phrase thrown around quite a bit. You know, this idea, can you hold space for me, or I'm holding space for you. But in the rhythm of language, in the language of rhythm and through communicating through percussion or drums, holding space for me means something very simple, something very steady, something very repetitive that can be leaned up against.
Yeah, I think my role has been a lot of like the practical things around it also, like picking up drums, like you mentioned before on DBA. I found some drums, changing skin on them. And of course I have been there also on Djembe Tribe with my energy, and I have brought some rhythms there. And now I think my role is also a bit of like Sean said, he keeps the ground rhythm, and then maybe we want to dive deeper and learn something specific, like a phrase and so on. And maybe then I'm the person who shows that, and like a person that the beginners can lean back on and like look at my hands, or I see someone is lost maybe, and then I break it down a bit and show it a bit simpler. And yeah.
Jack, my good friend who started Djembe Tribe with me back last year, has also been a huge instrumental part of it. And like any good group, I guess, we have to have space for times where each of us needs to pull back and have time to rest or reflect or do something different, and not necessarily be so, I guess you could say, occupied with holding the space. And we've done that at different points where I'll be away for a few weeks because I'm busy with work or something like that, and Simon is traveling or something, and Jack is away for a little bit. And so we've had a few people who have held this facilitation role in different ways together. And Jack's been an instrumental part of teaching mainly those classes. I would hold the dundun groove. The dundun are like the bass drums, the 3 big bass drums. And Simon would hold the djembe voice, and then Jack would teach the groove. So we would have the support of the road and the melody, and then Jack would lean on that to then instruct beginners in their tones and how to play the groove and different voices, and Jack's amazing at that, facilitating and teaching beginners and bringing people who have never played a drum into like banging on this thing in time. Really amazing, really amazing teacher.
I think also a big support has been Jesper, especially in the beginning when we didn't have our own drums. He was always bringing drums, and he's also a really good drum builder. So he brought some of his own drums he built, and that was also a big support, I think, like great support.
Yeah, my name is Jasper. I make music instruments, mainly West African music instruments. And besides, playing them and the different kind of abilities all of them have, I really enjoy playing them together with other people. So and in that relation, I have a lot playing with Djembe Tribe and the guys from there, the whole community tribe thing going on. What I really like about the drumming is for sure that everybody can participate and we can all have a good time, and it doesn't really matter what kind of level you are on, because there is a space for everybody when we're sitting in a drumming circle and we're able to make some magic together. And then it's for sure a passion of mine also to make the music instruments. Among these ones, drums usually is a very individual thing. One thing is that the sound, all drums are different sounds on them, but definitely also the aesthetics on it, and your music instrument should reflect you as a personality, both the sound, but definitely also the style of the drum. Over here is actually 2 drums that are drying. This is 2 stages of drums. This drum is mounted recently. So it's still drying and it's wet, so it's here. This one though, it is dry, but I need to remove the hair on top of the drum now. In here we have more of the workshop. You see here, this is the dundun set. It is the bass drums of West African percussion. Have heaps of skins in different colors and different sizes, depending on what you want on it. A lot of different skins you can put on it, but I think mainly you use goat or you use calf skin on these things, but I mount them with a horse also, cow, calf, steer. I did a lizard drum also, so it's very different what people want on their drums. You can put a lot of them on. So the workbench, of course, with all the small necessities, and here I have a lot of drum shells, both in different sizes. I have a lot of facilitating drums. All of them are hand carved out. None of them are made on machine. All of them are carved by tools, traditional African tools, and which they are carved out from. And in hand carved shells, there is a resonance going back and forth within a drum that bounces the sound differently than if you turn it on a machine. I like to think about it also that the drum have a little bit more soul, because it's the makers of the drum. For me, I am building and I am mounting the drums, but also the carvers that made the carvings on it, but also hollowing out it. It is a science going to it, and how much wideness in your neck to your throat and stuff like this. It makes a difference. For sure it does.
For me, this Djembe Tribe is about trying to create a space where we can meet and go deeper. And we're using the drum and the music as a tool to go past all of our interpersonal bullshit, also our psychological bullshit. You could say that we maybe live our lives up here a lot, and to step into a more primal place, lower down in our bodies, and connect on that level. If you haven't experienced that before, that's a whole nother life experience, way of being with people, where you can really feel a sense of connection. And that's what I think is so awesome with Djembe Tribe, and that's what's fascinated me so much with drums. What's so awesome about it also is that you don't need to be an experienced musician to access this kind of state. If you're just in the right space with the right facilitator who can introduce you in and make you a part of the group, you don't need to know anything. You can just hit the drum with the bass and holy shit, I'm playing music with a bunch of people, I'm a part of something. It can totally transform your inner state for that Saturday that you're at Djembe Tribe. And that's been something extremely positive in my life. And because it was so positive, I immediately wanted to share that with other people. And then somehow along the way, at least from my side, I feel like my own interpersonal bullshit and own complexes and problems relating to people has somehow become stronger than the, than the musical thing, and has created some problems within the group dynamic, and has kind of split the group a bit. And so now I'm taking a step back and kind of coming in tentatively with a different approach. Yeah, yeah.
But I will put the beginning after where it should be after.
Okay, so it's balancing the energy that is required to hold that space, drive the drums, do that facilitation, organize the budget, teach the class requires a ton of energy, you know, sit with beginners every week and be like, okay, so welcome to Djembe Tribe, this is a djembe, blah, 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 3 notes, here are the notes, and you say that every week, week after week, gets super tiring. And I think we've all taken a turn at being spent and been like, I'm done, you take the next class kind of thing. You know, having a leader step at the front of the pack and walk forwards breaks the energy that then makes it easier for people behind to follow in. You see birds flying in a V shape, right? That's because the bird at the front is breaking the wind, and then it's much easier for all of the other birds because they're already in that jet stream sort of thing. So granted, like, it goes without saying that being the one who's, come on guys, let's meet Saturday, 11 o'clock, you ready? Simon, you coming? Sean, you coming? Jack, you coming? Or whoever it is, like, Jesper, you coming? Takes a ton of energy to drive that onwards. And that can sometimes be like, why are we doing this actually? What are we doing this for actually? Awesome moments, or the most beautiful moments for me at Djembe Tribe, have hands down been over the summer. where we could play outside, and we would just spend all Saturday in the sun with friends, with food. People would come by in Feather Park and people would come and dance a little bit as well. And like, there were some moments there in the summer where Alki, one of our good friends from Guinea, would teach dance after Djembe Tribe. And so he would come to a lot of our jams and jam with us. And so some people would come and dance during our drumming sessions. And there were just some jams there that were just dancing,
really nice.
sunshine, good friends. Yeah.
Je suis Alkali Kamara et je viens de la Guinée, Conakry, Ouest Africa. Je suis professeur, danseur, chorégraphe. Je fais traditionnel danse et moderne, afro-contemporaine, street dance. Ma première fois, j'ai vu Djembe Tribe dans un événement à Refrain. C'était en 2019. Je suis vraiment content de les connaître d'abord et d'être parmi eux, de pratiquer beaucoup de fois les musiques traditionnelles que je connais et à certaines que je ne connais pas. Et à la fin, on fait des démonstrations freestyle. Ça aussi j'aime, mais la première des choses que j'aime d'être là-bas, c'est de connaître les amis. Moi, je pense que Djembe Tribe, c'est positif. Parce que là-bas, on n'impose pas quelque chose à quelqu'un de faire beaucoup de fois. Il faut commencer par la base et après, on te donne des accompagnements simples et après, la musique vient. Et après, on fait des solos, chacun joue ce qu'il veut. Et à la fin, on fait l'animation. Ça, j'aime, ça c'est positif. Par rapport à d'autres classes qu'on va te dire, il faut forcément que tu fais ça. Et à Djembe Tribe, c'est comme une famille. Tu ne connais pas, tu es bien arrivé, tu connais, tu es bien arrivé, on te donne la facilité d'improviser ce que toi tu connais, de quoi tu te sens. On te demande, tu veux qu'on joue quoi? Tu proposes et tout le monde va jouer ça avec toi. Que ce soit les musiques arabiques, les musiques orientales, les musiques chinoises, les musiques un peu partout. Mais vous êtes libre de proposer et tout le monde va te suivre. Donc ça, c'est positif.
The experience that I can have, that we can have drumming, feels more like it's not just like playing music, but it's like we're traveling through a new landscape. And that was really exciting for me, especially at the start of the project, realizing this, because I've always looked for different frontiers to explore in my life. And I've always had this kind of wish of like, oh, I wish that there was some unexplored rainforest or something that I could go explore, or some uncharted area of the map where I could just go there. Like, where is that nowadays? Everything's explored. But through playing the drum, it's like the space right here, right around me, has so many different depths to it that I can explore. And then I can explore with my mates, you know, like looking over and seeing my buddy Sean there, seeing my buddy Simon, and it's like, the feeling is like, oh my God, we're on a ship at high seas, and it's going, you know. And I look over there and it's like, yeah, it's going, how you doing over there? It's going crazy. I got it though. All right, keep going. Yeah. You know? It's, yeah, so that's what it's about.
So where do we go from here? What comes next for Djembe Tribe? What are on the horizons for us? What are our dreams, visions? Before the summer this year, so maybe like 6 months ago or so, I had actually reached out to a few different NGOs that were working with refugees here in Denmark. We had talked about moving drums out there and either just playing for them or bringing the kids into it and doing a little drum workshop for the children. The summer flew by so fast, and with some activities that just raced ahead, we didn't get a chance to actually carry out and implement this project. But for me, it's still on the back burner of like, okay, we've got a good sort of base of drummers who are capable in Copenhagen, and we've now also acquired a bunch of djembes as Djembe Tribe. So how do we then put this to good use? To like then take it out for a social cause, to do activities, workshops with schools, children, disadvantaged areas. For example, especially with refugee children, Syrians, Afghans, wherever they're from, is a chance to release and heal through music, which is a form of expression, like art therapy basically, through drumming. A chance for them to connect to themselves, to connect to each other, to create community, and to heal for a moment, to have a break from their lives and the existence, which might also be kind of one-dimensional and somewhat difficult. Drumming gives you a chance to go into another world. I think the first big priority would be to reshuffle the order of how I've said it, is to ensure the continuity of Djembe Tribe as a group that meets once a week for a couple of hours and makes music. I think that's like the first big forward-looking step of how do we ensure that as a sustainable process, meaning how do we ensure that enough funds come in to maintain the drums, how do we ensure that enough funds come in to maintain the studio which we pay rental for, and importantly, how do we maintain the energy of the facilitators, which changes with the politics of how you feel and our group. So how do we ensure that there's enough of a stable base that there'll be someone facilitating it? If I get tired or sick, I'm fed up with Djembe Tribe, I'm sick of Simon and Jack or whatever it is, and then can someone else step in and take over and do whatever is needed? Maybe Jack, Simon and I and Jesper, we all get sick of drumming. Can someone else then carry on the mantle and take it forwards? So that's the big priority. Forward looking, how do we ensure the sustainability of Djembe Tribe? 2, how do we take it further to not just being about creating music and having fun for ourselves, but how do we make that a social enterprise or a social endeavor to then give that sense of healing or community to groups that might need it, marginalized groups, refugees, schools, disadvantaged groups. And the third thing would be doing performances and having some more sort of like shows, gigs, concerts kind of thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.